Honestly, it's just consistency and literal hard work. Blood, sweat, tears. I was in finance. I needed a creative outlet. Loved makeup ever since I was a young kid, watching my mum apply makeup.
How have you guys built an emotional connection that's beyond just PTs in a space?
Absolutely $0 spent. We were just so loud and proud about what we've created and being able to utilise our networks that we've built. Not everyone's going to love your brand. Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to agree with what you do. Content, every opportunity. You need to be creating content all the time.
What is a low, or I suppose something that you've navigated?
I would say the one that comes to mind the most, because it had the most impact, is
Amy, welcome to Top of Mind. I am super excited to be sitting here with you today. I think we had the conversation just before around me following your journey, the ACERO journey, and I think I'm most importantly excited about the fact that I get to pick your brain on how you've built not only the ACERO brand, but your personal brand. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to get stuck into it. You've built a successful business and brand. As I mentioned before, you've got the ACERO brand and you've got your personal brand. Now, your personal brand is known quite publicly, and building a successful brand is not an easy thing to do. So is there a secret recipe that you've followed to be able to build these brands that are quite publicly known now?
I feel like you're going to hate me for this. But honestly, it's just consistency and literal hard work. Like blood, sweat, tears, ups, downs, turn around, come back around. It's like honestly just like trial and error.
Yeah.
And you keep going until you find what works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, to be honest with you. And it's actually music to my ears because it's something that we say to our clients all the time, right? Yeah. Is like it's not sexy, consistency.
No.
And people hate hearing that answer because it isn't sexy. So you started with your personal brand, which was you were an OG beauty influencer.
Yeah, back in the day.
Which I love. And then you were started on social media and then built a YouTube channel.
Yeah. It's still there if you Google it.
Oh, my God. I did actually.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie, I did.
I don't look the same, but...
Time. You've aged gracefully.
Yes, that's it.
And probably you've got a little bit Benjamin Button.
Yeah, I think so. Like
just
a fine wine.
Glow up. With your personal brand, how did you start that? What made you get into it? Because you weren't starting, like you didn't start out with the intention to be an influencer.
No.
So where did it start?
Well, I was in finance, went to uni for 6 years, got a job in finance, and then I needed a creative outlet, and obviously loved makeup ever since I was a young kid, watching my mum apply makeup, and I just started doing it on myself and putting it on this thing called Instagram, doing like shoots, bought an amazing camera, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, these people that I don't even know, not just my family, friends, start to follow me and are interested in how I did that look or how I created or what products I was using. I was like, okay, this is weird, but I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And then, it just grew from there.
And the natural progression onto YouTube, was that just because you wanted to be able to provide more content?
Yes. So Instagram back then, is this showing my age? I feel like it is.
No, it's okay. I talk with my team all the time and I'm like, before Instagram was MySpace and Bebo.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
And MSN.
Yes. Dialing in on the internet.
The dial-up.
Yeah, so because of the limitations that Instagram had, you couldn't put content like videos. It was like, what, like 30 seconds or like Yeah, something ridiculous.
There was also, I was talking with someone else about this the other day with Instagram. Instagram, you didn't actually start with the ability to upload from your camera roll.
No, that's
You
right.
had to take the photo in app. It was instant Instagram.
It was like Instagram. That's
exactly
what it stands for. So, yeah, people obviously were interested in the way I did the makeup. So I was like, well, okay, there's this thing called YouTube that I can create tutorials on and link it back to Instagram and all the rest of it. So that's why I created a YouTube account.
And then off the back of your personal brand growing, you then launched ACERO with your now ex-husband.
Yes.
Which is a story in itself that we can get into.
Yeah.
I think what I'm most interested in is, was ACERO always part of the plan, or was it just something that was kind of born out of an idea, and through that kind of consistent hard work and turning up and figuring it out as you go, it's developed into this brand? If you love this episode, help us to grow and reach more people by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a review. Did you always have this end brand goal in mind?
No. So I always knew that I wanted to do something different for myself. Same with Jono. Like, he's worked across a multitude of gyms in Sydney, Fitness First, Virgin, other boutique ones. And it just so happened that in the lockdown of 2020, his gym closed. And he was training his clients. He had a very loyal client base in the domain, in a park. Rain, hail or shine, they'd show up, he'd show up. And we stumbled across the space that is now ACERO, and we were like, okay, we can do something here. And during that lockdown, you were allowed to. You were allowed to do PT as long as it was 1.5 meters away from that person.
Yeah.
So that's how ACERO was born, in the worst time for so many people.
Absolutely. I mean, our business started in lockdown as well, and people thought that I was crazy starting a marketing agency in lockdown, but I knew that there were so many small to medium-sized businesses that didn't have access to marketing or advertising support because they couldn't afford the $30,000 to $50,000 retainers that were there with big agencies.
Yeah.
So when you see an opportunity like that and you go, cool, we'll take the space, what happens next? Did you have a brand in mind? Did you have a marketing plan?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. And ACERO is actually Jono's second last name.
I heard that the other day and I was like, wow, how is that not more widely known?
Yeah, and it's also in Spanish it means steel or strong. So it just made sense. It was like, that is it. But when Jono heard it, I'm like, let's call it ACERO. And he was like, that's weird. Like, that's my last name. It's like using your last name, like Castano, and being like, this is your brand. But I'm like, no, it works. And now ACERO is the brand, not just his last name.
Yeah, and I think building a brand, though, is so much more of an emotional connection than it is a physical connection to something, right? Like, you can wear a brand and you're like, cool, I'm wearing a brand, but you'll continue to buy a brand or invest in a brand because you feel an emotional connection with that brand. How do you think ACERO has built, or how have you guys built an emotional connection that's beyond just PTs in a space? Because, you know, if we look at the fitness industry now, 5 years ago, the gyms that exist then don't exist now. There are a huge amount of, I suppose, group fitness environments and things like that, you know, did build a community and now don't exist or are kind of very limited in that space or declining. How have you built a community or that feeling that positions ACERO as something that people want to be a part of?
I feel like, well, firstly, our business is people. So our PTs provide, and when we do in the hiring process, we make, like, I know within 2 minutes if you're going to be a part of ACERO and how you fit with ACERO. It's energy. And you can't buy that. You can't teach that. That is literally a person, and you either have it or you don't. And I feel like we're very careful in the way that we bring people into our community in terms of our staff. And with that, we're very particular when we, with our lead generation system, we really think about who's going to fit best with each trainer. So when we get a lead, we, have a chat with them, we figure out their goals, but we also figure out their personality and also their energy and who they would fit best with. And I think that for us, rather than being like, oh, okay, this PT only has 20 sessions, we need to fill up their books. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about getting that person their goal in the best environment possible and with the best person that they will feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and I love that. I think one of the things, I've trained at ACERO before, and I think one of the things that I loved about the gym, still love about the gym, is that you guys allow clients to train with other PTs, which is kind of unheard of in the PT world, right? Like my background very, very early on was PT, and it was like this dog eat dog world where it's like, that's my client. And it was like Hunger Games at the gym.
Yeah.
That was obviously something that you guys worked hard to mitigate in your space. How did you figure out how that would work from a commercial point of view?
I think, like mentioning before, Jono worked in so many different spaces, and he had a really bad experience at one place that was very dog-eat-dog world, and very like there was a boys' club and he was kind of like not a part of it because he was doing so well. And he wanted to not have that in his space at all. And I've also been a part of situations where I've been left out. We all have, right? So for us as well, we like to provide the best service as possible. And with Jono, he's great in body transformations. He's great in strength training, weight training, cardio, but boxing, no. Pilates, definitely not. Recovery, no.
Yeah.
But we needed to be able to have other people that came on board that could provide that for his clients, at the time his clients, which then turned into our clients. So working as a team, I feel like you get so much further than just being like, okay, these are all my clients. I'm going to, make sure that I provide them the best session, even if it's boxing, but I don't know how to box.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're so right. Like everybody has been in situations where they've been, I built my business on the idea that it wasn't going to be the same as any other environment that I'd been in before. I'd taken all of the shit experiences that I had and then did the complete opposite with my business because I could.
Yeah.
But I think with ACERO then, you say you had no marketing plan, no business plan. You had the space, you had the name, you had an idea of what you wanted to do. When it came to marketing the product, where did you start?
On Instagram.
Obvious.
And a plethora of apps. Like I literally just created all this, like, I guess branding. Like what I saw in Jono, what I saw in myself, I kind of wanted to put it into the brand, like, cool vibes. Because I'm
I love
cool
it.
vibes.
Marketing brief.
Yeah, cool vibes. And like just an edge, not your typical like PT. Like our PTs wear merch, like cool stuff to train people. Like it's not like, okay, collared shirt and black shorts. Like it is like different, and we love the individuality that each personal trainer brings.
Yeah. And I remember early days of Sarah, like when I first heard about it, and I just remember seeing all of these beautiful influencers training there. And I was like, oh, that's such a cool space. But I think there's also the lot of like immediately, and I know we've spoken about transformations in terms of our own transformations, immediately as somebody that is really confident in a gym, but perhaps has a little bit of self-consciousness or whatever. Seeing these beautiful people in a gym, I was like, oh, there's no way I could possibly train there. So how do you balance this like aspirational brand, which is what ACERO is? You guys aren't built for everybody, which I love, but how do you make people that perhaps aren't that kind of aspirational level of people feel comfortable in that space?
I feel like that comes down to the people.
100%.
So Jono and I are very easygoing people, and that definitely trickles down into the people that we work with. And I feel like, obviously you said we had this image of like all these beautiful influencers and media personalities coming into our gym. And I think that's, one aspect of the business. But then, making the other clients and all of our clients feel comfortable and confident enough to potentially get in front of a camera so that we could share their journeys as well and their stories and feature them over our socials, because, not everyone wants to see just an influencer gym, because it's not enticing, I feel, to me. I wouldn't want to go somewhere that's just, one type of person. I want to go somewhere that I can feel a part of, an environment that is welcoming to everyone.
Absolutely. And I feel like I really saw that shift. Like, I feel like when you guys launched, it was like, wow, this is like really aspirational. There was like very well-known people training in there. Like, I remember like a very core memory is like seeing Rebel Wilson train there, and the Rita Auras and things like that. And you're like, that's cool. Like, I want to be in a space like that. But then slowly over time, you saw your social media change to start highlighting all of the types of members that are there, which really opened my eyes up, because I was like, wow, it's not just an influencer gym. And I think sometimes with gym marketing, you see the person with the six-pack on the front of the marketing and you're like, but what if I'm not him? Or what if he's not him?
Yeah.
And I think being able to market to that broad spectrum of clients, which is obviously, as you said, you've got everyone from weight training to boxing to Pilates in that space, is so important. So with that, you invested in working with influencers off the back of launching the business, is that right?
No. So I think like all of our marketing and interest was organic.
Amazing.
Absolutely $0 spent. And I pride myself and Jono on that, because I think we were just so loud and proud about what we've created, and being able to utilize our networks that we've built over so many years to be like, come in, train. And as well as Jono, I have to take my hat off to him. He'd prefer to be giving his time in one session to, I don't know, training some sort of celebrity or some sort of media personality or influencer to get the brand out there for a potential post or tag, than just sitting there and like turning on Netflix and
waiting.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And that comes back to that point that you said earlier around, it's all well and good sitting there being like, I've got my vision board and my marketing plan, but if you don't put in the hard work, it's not going to happen.
Where's the action?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to jump into content, because if you take one look at any of the brands that you touch, which is your personal brand, ACERO, ACERO Drip, Wear ACERO, and Jono's brand, content is so important.
It is.
And you can see the importance that you put on content if you look at any of those social pages. I'll start with the ACERO brand, but how important is it to create content, and how important is the quality of content for your brand?
Content, every opportunity. Like, you need to be creating content, I say all the time, like regardless of what you're doing, even if you're just banking it for later.
Oh, yes, we love a good content bank.
And quality, I think, is very important as well. The look and the feel should bring out what type of like person that you are, I think.
Absolutely. And I think then translating that to your personal brand, creating content for yourself and the brands that you work with, is that a full-time job?
Yeah. Like, I need 10 of me. Like, please.
Yeah. When you find that person,
Yeah.
let me know and I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is it's a tedious thing because it's a double-edged sword. You can kind of be like, oh, I want to live in the moment. I want to just, enjoy this moment. And I'm such that person. But I also get that if it's not on the gram, it never happened. So
Pics or it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, I find that I have a good balance in that. I know, like, okay, let's get the shot now so that we can just enjoy the rest of the night, or let's get all the content out of the way so we can enjoy the rest of the event. And then if something pops up, like an interesting part of it, then take a piece of content.
Yeah. I feel like when I started on Instagram, everything was like, I've got to do it now and all of that. But now it's like, okay, take the content, upload it when you have time or on your own.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think getting the content is so important because it's like if people don't feel as though they know you or know what you're doing, then there's not that element of trust.
Yeah.
Like if you're only posting brand stuff all the time that's like sponsor post, sponsor post, and none of the like behind the scenes of your life, people don't feel as though that trust is there because they're like, well, she's only selling me stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that in terms of the content that isn't selling or doing a job and the content that's just behind the scenes versus the content that is selling and perhaps content that you've been paid to do?
So I feel like in every aspect of the day there's something, right? So for me, because I'm in beauty, fitness, I guess business as well, a part of my routine is doing my makeup in the morning. So there's an opportunity for me to talk about the brands that I actually use in the morning, that I love, that I trust, and I'm not being paid to talk about that. But I want to share that with the people watching because that's a genuine thing. And then if it so happens that I partner with a brand, it has to be a brand that I love. It has to be something that I align myself with because I can't talk about it unless it is.
Have you ever spoken about brands or partnered with a brand in the early days that you're like, I shouldn't have done that?
Yes.
You don't have to name names.
It was a tea that probably didn't...
Most people our age would know.
Yeah, yes. Would have you probably rushing to the toilet, an hour later.
Yeah.
But it was
as a detox.
Yes. Yeah. Probably rhymes with like innie.
Rhymes with innie me tea.
Yeah. You know the one. Yeah. But yeah, it was probably the first brand that I ever worked with. And it was exciting. It was like, how did I get from here to here? And also a few years before, this wasn't a thing. Like no one knew what it was. And now look at it.
Yeah. So then with your personal brand and your personal content, you've gone from promoting a product like that to now promoting high-end luxury goods and more in that kind of higher-end market, whether that's beauty products, fashion products, experiences. And you can't just go overnight from promoting said tea to the high-end brands that you now work with. So if there's someone listening to this who is in that space where they're kind of just working with brands to kind of get their foot in the door, it's interesting. I had this conversation with someone the other day about getting your foot in the door. I think a lot of the times in your career you get told, just get your foot in the door. And then you get to your 30s and you're like, well, I don't have to keep getting my foot in the door. The foot's in the door.
Yeah.
What do I actually like doing now?
Yeah.
So it's like, at what point and how could, say, somebody that is partnering with brands that are perhaps not the end goal brands that they want to partner with, how would you suggest that they start kind of veering into whether it's the high end markets or products, or perhaps another market that they've not had the opportunity to get into yet because they're so new, how would you do it if you were to do it again?
I think be authentically yourself. If you like Chanel, post Chanel because that's authentically what you like. And if that's something that you align yourself with, you purchase the products, if you have the products, then why wouldn't you share that with your audience? And I think that is the main thing that has obviously shifted myself into that, because I like nice things.
Don't we all?
And I have nice things. So I like to share what I authentically like. I'm not going to be like, buy a certain brand just to partner with that brand and then share it. It would more so be, what do I have available to myself because I actually love it? And you never know. Like, brands these days are always looking, they're always watching, and they always have ideas.
Hey guys, if you are listening on Spotify, do not forget to give us a 5-star rating. It will help us to reach more people. And so knowing that and knowing the game or the space, you can call it a game. It's a game. Everything is a game.
It is.
The game that you're in with your personal brand and Jono's personal brand, and knowing ACERO as a brand and knowing the products that you've launched off the back of it. So ACERO Drip, which is your fitness app, and then Wear ACERO, which is your activewear brand. Is there anything that you've kind of learned in your personal branding journey of building your own personal brand that you've kind of applied to launching those brands?
Yeah, I think consistency.
Yeah.
Literally.
Sorry, guys. It's
I know,
not
I'm
sexy.
so sorry. But it is. It's like, if I look at when I started to now, if I stopped at any moment, was just like, I don't know what this Instagram thing is. I'm going to not continue doing what this is. I would have stopped at that point. It wouldn't have evolved into what it is today. And that's the same as my brands in the sense of, we keep evolving, we keep moving with the times, we keep an eye out on what's happening in the market, but we stay in our lane because we know what we're good at. It's just about how we make it better.
Yeah.
And it's about consistently trialing, error. That's what it is.
It's not a sexy answer.
No, it's not.
But you're so right. Now, do you work with marketing teams? Do you have teams internally? Do you work with content creators? Like, how, like, you're one person. I know we've spoken about cloning ourselves before.
Yeah.
But you're one person. So who do you have in your team to support, like, marketing and content creation, not only for the ACERO brands, but for your brands?
I'm smiling because
it's all me.
No, I wish. I wouldn't take the credit for that because I have such an amazing team. One of my main, I guess you'd call him my left-hand man, Caleb, general manager of ACERO. He's across so many things, across all the brands actually, and he helps out a lot. And does so much for the brand and is so switched on, so young too. For like, he's like an old soul, but he's so young. Like, that was just a stumble across him, and I was like, I'm never letting you go. Just so you know, like that fine print in your contract, you got to zoom in because you're never leaving. But yeah, Jono's amazing as well. He's so like him and I'm obviously like behind the scenes, but he's the face, and his network hustle game is like so strong. In terms of content as well, for us and for ACERO, we utilize a team, that comes in, does content for our trainers, does content for the gym, but also as well for us, personal content across our pages. So yeah, it's not just all us.
Yeah. And so what would you say the balance is of, because I think, one of the questions that we get all the time is, how much content should I shoot on my own and how much content can we get a team to create? And I think the answer is how long is a piece of string,
Yeah.
and how much do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
How much of a percentage would you say you guys create your own content versus getting content created for you?
I'd say 50-50. I feel like I'm a very like in the moment person, and ideas come to me like when I'm sleeping, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to do this.
Or
in the shower. In the shower is the like worst one. And I'm like getting out and I'm like writing on my phone and it's all wet and nothing's working.
I'm so seen. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like if you have an idea, like run with it and like try it and see where it takes you. But also if you do want that like extra edge in terms of your content, obviously if you don't have the time or if you don't have that eye, because it is creative. It's a creative space. It's a full-time job. So if you don't have that and you want to level up your content, you can get ideas from a team like that. And there's so many businesses out there doing it.
Absolutely. And before we kind of dive into the question that I want to touch on around kind of professionalism and your personal brand, I think with content creation, it's always something that, you know, we always say to our clients, there's content in everything. Like I could set up my phone here, record myself talking, and I could use it as B-roll. I could use like there's so many ways, and everything can become content. With your content for the brand jobs that you work, how do you balance that on your profile in terms of the way in which you talk about that? Are you really transparent with the sponsorship deals and like partnerships that you have, or do you just kind of build it into what you're talking about already and then kind of put the mandatories in like ad and things like that?
Yeah, I like to be very natural in the sense of like, okay, not like holding up a product and being like, buy this, swipe up, click this link. I don't like that type of thing. I like it to be very natural, and it could just be me talking about my day, doing my makeup, getting ready in the morning, and I so happen to have a partnership with a brand and I will include that in my routine. Or that whole morning is talking about that same brand. I did a paid partnership the other day, and it was about watching a game of sports, and I absolutely enjoy watching it, but I integrated it into my content by talking about other things and then that being a part of it as well.
And you mentioned just before around sharing links and swipe up and things like that. I feel like now people see straight through that. As soon as they see like a swipe up or a click this or I use my discount code, people kind of tune out. How do you navigate that with brands that you are working with that are like, we want you to share this link?
I think it's like if it's a mandatory and it's what the brand wants, and like I get it, I'm a brand myself. So I get that there are things that a brand requires, and I think it's more so like, dropping it, on say one story slide and then being like, okay, I'll give this a little bit of a break. But then, bringing it back later. But it's also, I think it's easy to be able to talk about the link and where to get something because you authentically love that product yourself, that you're sharing it because you know that your audience want to know about it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to focus on, I think, as well with, don't create content that doesn't look like yours. I think far too often I see influencers creating content that you're like, this looks nothing like the content that you're creating every other day.
Yeah.
But you're trying to trick people into thinking that this is what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that authenticity piece and consistency piece comes into it, right?
Yeah.
Of keeping it consistent with what you're already posting and what you're already sharing.
Exactly.
So that I feel like the moment there's like a bit of almost like a bit of friction with what content you would normally post versus this, hey guys, buy this product,
Yeah.
people immediately shut down and they're like, I'm being sold to.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's that, yeah, you're right, the authenticity piece and consistency piece that comes into play there. Now, one word that I absolutely hate is professionalism, or being professional, because by definition, professional is doing your job.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with the way that you look. It has nothing to do with your nail colour. It has nothing to do with how you wear your hair, what you wear to work. And I think that far too often business leaders, owners, hide behind the word professional to avoid disclosing what it is that they don't like about that person or what it is that they're asking that person to fix or rectify.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had comments before in the past that posting my gym workouts on my Instagram that's public isn't professional.
Yeah.
And you obviously wear many hats. You're a beauty influencer. You own a gym. You own an activewear brand. You own a fitness app. And fitness is a part of your life. But how do you manage the different hats like beauty, fitness, your own like professional brain and business brain as well on a social platform in a way that people still take you seriously?
I think I was very myself from, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, where I was just, to start with, I was very professional, would only shoot certain ways, would never talk in my videos, would never, upload something unless it was clean, crisp, beautiful. And then that sort of just changed for me because I wanted to be myself, and myself isn't that. It's just, I'm such a chill person. I'm, very strange humor. Find really weird things funny.
That's why we get along.
Yes. And I just wanted to be myself. And I think with my personal brand, Jono's personal brand, what people love is that it's not that like, maybe our feeds are very curated and wow, they live an amazing life. But we do share our struggles. We do share when something goes wrong. We do share just us being idiots at times. And I think that's what keeps us relatable. And I also say, like, myself and to Jono, is that not everyone's going to agree, and it goes for anything. Not everyone's going to love your brand. Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to agree with what you do. So if you completely, like, know which lane you're in and stick to it, I think you just live freer, and you also show yourself in that way.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of my favourite quotes is, you can be the juiciest peach in the whole world and there'll still be someone that doesn't like peaches. So I think it's an age thing though as well, like an experience thing, right? Like I think when you're younger, you want to try and make an impression. You want to try and be something that perhaps you're not completely, or hide all of your supposed imperfections or flaws. And I think as you get older, you get more and more comfortable with the idea that actually I'm okay for people knowing all of me.
Yeah.
And I also think, like, you don't have to share everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you share what you want to share.
Yeah.
You share what you want people to see. That's not everything. And as you said, there's highs and lows in building businesses, and there's highs and lows in building brands. And that kind of is a nice segue to, I suppose, talking about, a low. I'm learning more and more. The more years that I spend in business, the more I learn that the highs are really, really high and the lows get lower and lower and lower, and there's such a big gap between them.
Yeah.
The longer that you spend in business. What is kind of a low, or I suppose something that you've navigated that you've been able to kind of learn from and I suppose implement things moving forward to kind of help you progress in that business space?
I would say the one that comes to mind the most, because it had the most impact, is the breakdown of our marriage. And obviously that trickled into our business because we were business partners, still are business partners.
Which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
I love.
We love it too.
Yeah.
But navigating that in the initial phases was incredibly hard. And I guess what I learned from that is like it made us incredibly fearless. Like I couldn't think of anything flies that could have put me in a better position to be like, I've experienced the worst of the worst, like complete low, so incredibly worried about what is going to happen, the unknown. We were in obviously such a routine, and then for it to be turned on its head, like completely. And my world was shocked. His world was too. But I think that really gave us the advantage in the fact that nothing can stay the same. Everything changes. You need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to make decisions, and very important ones, but also be confident in that decision that you make and follow through.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I have a business with an ex and we're still good friends and I love it. I think there's a lot of people that have their own opinions about it and they think that it's strange because they probably themselves couldn't do it. How did you manage that with your team? Because I can only imagine the worst thing, both being in that space, the worst thing that could have happened, would people take Amy's side? Would people take Jono's side? And what side of the story are we going to believe? And who's going to tell what? So how did you manage that with your team?
It was hard because our team was very close, is very close-knit. And obviously energy is everything, and I know that they could feel energy and that energy. And we kept it to ourselves for a very long time because we both knew that we wanted to continue on with the business and it was just really just getting over that hump. But I think the way that we managed it was there was a second lockdown, so it kind of worked in our favour. It actually did work in our favour. So first lockdown, we built the business. Second lockdown, we broke up and we were able to have that space away from each other and the team. So it wasn't always us at the same time in the gym. And I think that actually was a blessing in disguise, honestly. Like being able to be like, okay, I'm not in today, you are, you're in today, I'm not.
Yeah.
And really giving each other that space to be like, let's cool it and let's not bring our personal into the business, even though our business is very personal. It was like, let's not bring it in, and we agreed to make sure that we would not like bring that energy.
Yeah.
And if we did, we get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's how we navigated it the most. And we still, to this day, we don't like to, if we do have like, I don't know, everyone has heated arguments. It happens. That's never, ever in front of the team, or that's never.
Not in front of the children.
No. It's actually funny because our first trainer, Benny, I call him my firstborn because he's just been around for so long. He's a beautiful person and I feel like he obviously would have felt it the most because he knows us so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has a knock-on effect as well to how they turn up to work, 100%. Right? Because
like
I think
they're worried, like,
100%.
Wait, what's going to happen? Not only to, like, they're sad about the relationship, but what's going to happen to my job? Do I still have one? Am I secure?
Yeah.
So,
and I think you see it as well in big corporations, and you'd know this as well working, with a background in finance and working in big corporations. I think, the moment you see like leaders start to leave, or, people that are more senior than you start to leave an organization, there creates this sense of panic that people go, well, if they're leaving, they're really good at their job. Should I be thinking about leaving?
yes.
And I think that's the same as, managing something like that in a business or even in a space. Managing it amongst your families would be hard enough, let alone managing it with your extended family, which is your team.
Yeah.
And I think, I think it's really admirable how you guys have done it. I've, obviously seen from, the outskirts, but I think there's something really admirable to be able to agree and move forward for the greater good of a brand or a business instead of being quite selfish and being like, well, no, this is what I want.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hats off to you. Credit where credit's due.
you.
Now, not a lot of people know this about you, but you also manage Jono's personal brand.
Yes, I do.
Which I love. I love. She's the brains behind it all.
Yes.
What is one piece of advice? Obviously, managing someone else's brand is very different to managing your own.
Mm-hmm.
What is one piece of advice that you'd give to someone that is potentially looking to have someone else manage their brand? Because I think one of the biggest things I see working with content creators and influencers in that space is sometimes the agents or the managers don't have the person's best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Or don't care about that person. They just care about the income that's coming from it. I had a very funny story years ago where we were doing this charity barbecue event, and this one person that was put forward for it, I knew that he was a vegan at the time.
Right.
And I'm like, I wonder how he'd feel about cooking sausages. Like some vegans are okay with cooking meat or being around it. Some people aren't.
Yeah.
And his manager swore black and blue, everything would be okay. He's fine to toss the sausages, no problems. I was like, great, no problems. He turned up, he said, I didn't realize we were cooking sausages. I'm not touching those.
Wow.
So I think one of the things that I see all the time is this, disconnect from the manager and the talent. That's why I think some of the best managers are either partners or, in the Kardashians' case, the mums, because they have the best interests at heart. How have you found managing Jono's brand?
I know him like the back of my hand, so it's very easy. I know what he likes. I know, we've spent, 18 years of knowing each other. So for me, it's obviously different if you're a manager and you come in and you're trying to get to know your client. And I think that obviously that element of knowing someone so well and giving the effort into knowing that person, I think is the only way that you can. Like, you really need to know that person. You need to know that brand, because you got to live it and breathe it yourself. You're selling that brand. So I think that, being able to know it like the back of your hand is the biggest advantage. And you can sell it more authentically as well, rather than just being like, oh, yep, he'll go and do this job for that amount. He probably would, but I think it's very important to be like, okay, I know that this is what you like. I know that this is where you want to go, and be true to that and stick to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever had a brand deal come across his inbox that you're like, I'd love to do that?
Oh, yeah. So many.
You're like, we're doing this?
So many. Absolutely. I'm like, if they ever need like someone else, if they need a manager, if you need your manager with you, like I'm here.
I'll be
like,
there.
just know that I'm here. Like, he went to the World Cup with Hublot. I mean, you could have taken your manager, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who did he take?
It was himself.
Oh.
Yeah. But there are so many opportunities that come across his, also my inbox, and I'm like, wow, like these opportunities that literally priceless, because you would never get to experience that or even purchase that.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the last couple of questions, I have one question that if you were to go back, because I think about this all the time, that if I was to go back and start my business, there's a bunch of things that I would do differently or I would know to do better straight off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with your personal brand, if you were to go back and start again, what would you do differently?
I think I would stick things out a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, nobody knows this. I have shared it on my Instagram a few times, but so then everyone knows it.
Like no one knows this except all of my Instagram followers.
Yeah. I had a clothing label when I was younger, and it did incredibly well, like ridiculous. And it was in the height of when Sydney Fashion Blogger was Sydney Fashion Blogger. And she bought one of my pieces, wore it on one of her Mykonos trips, and it went wild. I was this little girl in my parents' home selling these dresses, and they couldn't get out of there quick enough. The next, I'm not a designer, so I hired a designer. The designs came back so bad, like really bad.
We have to say that.
Like, yeah, I need to show you. They came back really bad, and I was just like, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not a designer. I'm not a clothing person. I love fashion. I know what's in here, but it didn't translate to the paper or to the product. So that I was like, look, I did it well, cool. I'm just not cut out for this. So I think for me, maybe stick out things a little bit longer. But also I'm grateful to know when something's not working, to be able to be like, okay, this isn't for me. On to the next.
Yeah. And with ACERO, if you were to start again with any of the products, whether it's the gym, the app, the activewear.
I feel like our journey with that unfolded in a way that presented itself in a way that was just unheard of. Like it came because of a situation that was, bad. Jono had no place to train his clients. So it just, all the opportunities that came and all the things that we sort of came across obviously was a lot of our hustle and hard work and endless hours put into it. But I think the way that it unfolded was exactly how it was meant to. So I feel like even if I had a marketing plan, even if I had a business plan, even if I had an idea of what I wanted it to become, I feel like that would have shifted or it wouldn't have stayed on track, and maybe that would have thrown me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think when people say to me, what's my 5-year goal? I'm like, I know where I want to be.
Yes.
I know what I want to do. I know who I want to impact. But do I have a plan to get there, so to speak, that's mapped out at every month, every quarter, every year? No, because if I had a plan initially, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Exactly.
And so I think it's beneficial to have that, but I think the consistent through line there is the hard work of just turning up and getting things done each month and each year and improving every year.
Yeah.
Now, I have some quick fire questions that I want to ask you. They don't have to be answered quickly, but more of just getting everybody to answer the same ones. What is one brand that first comes to mind for you?
Gucci.
I love that you didn't say your own.
Oh my God. Wow. Marketing 101.
No.
Clearly.
Gucci.
Yeah.
I love it. Why Gucci?
I was wearing it last night, so I just pictured myself in it.
What is it about Gucci that you like?
I like that it's different. It's premium. It's just a brand. Well, look, you've got a Gucci bag.
That's what you're looking at.
That's why.
Subliminal marketing.
Yeah, that's what you did. Yeah, I mean, I like Gucci.
Yeah, love it. Is it probably your favourite designer brand?
No, I think Prada is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prada's my fave.
Why?
I like that it's like edgy. It's classic, but also different.
Mm-hmm.
Classic pieces, but it's very it's different.
Yeah, a little more edgy.
Yeah.
Now, what is one thing that you think that helps keep a business top of mind?
Consistency. I'm so sorry. But it is, because think about it. Like, if someone is looking for a PT, or they're not looking for a PT or a gym to train in or a fitness brand, they see it at that point, they're not going to do anything about it. They see it at another point, they're not going to do anything about it. They see it when they're ready to commit to their fitness goals. They've already seen it that many times before that they're like, I want to give this a try. I want to try the thing that I saw a month ago, a year ago, because that's in their mind.
Absolutely. And we say it all the time, especially for those kind of more premium investments, not like your fast food investments and things like that. But, ACERO is a premium investment, and it's one of those things that I think the stat is something like 95% of people are not in the market to buy at the time that you're marketing to them. There's only 5% that actually sit in that like ready to convert stage.
Yeah.
So a lot of marketing efforts are long term. I like to refer to our business as like, we're not the 6-week I beat the body challenge.
Yeah.
Like, we are the lifetime with you to shift your lifestyle kind of thing. And I think it's the same mentality as like, one salad is not going to get you a 6-pack, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's that consistent effort over time. And lastly, because I love quotes so much, what is a quote that is top of mind or something that you constantly refer back to throughout your journey?
Yeah, I resonate with this very much so, is I never knew where I wanted, or I never knew what I wanted to do, but I knew the woman I wanted to become. And that is so me, because I've gone from so many different places, but I've always stuck to my core values in everything, and I always put that first in everything that I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
What a perfect way to wrap up. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. I think there's so much insight into the world of not only your own brand and Jono's brand, but ACERO as well, which is just this brand that just keeps on blooming and growing. And I cannot wait to see where the next 2 to 5 to 10 years takes it, because I think that you guys are only just getting started.
Thank you.
And it's really exciting to watch. So thank you so much for sharing everything with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Before you go, help us grow and reach more people by hitting the subscribe button and leaving us a review.